Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. Once again, the ACC Coastal is wide open going into 2021. And once again, Miami finds themselves in a battle right up at the top. The Hurricanes check in at number 21 in our early Gridiron Expert Top 25. Today we are taking a look at their schedule, and they come in at 21, guys, following an 8-3 season in 2020, an 8-3 season in year 2 under Manny Diaz. And you can't help but feel like year 3 has to be a big year for Diaz down at the U. You can't help but feel that year 3 has to be the year that if they don't win the Coastal, they at least win 9 games, 10 games, somewhere up there. Something to please the Hurricane faithful. Obviously, year 2 was a lot better than year 1. Year 1, where they finished with a losing record, lost to Louisiana Tech in their bowl game. They bounced back in year 2, go 8-3. And a major reason for that was the brand new quarterback in D'Eriq King. And that's a major storyline we need to watch over the course of this offseason. And as we approach their season opener on September 4th, how healthy will D'Eriq King be? Because remember, he tore his ACL in their bowl game against Oklahoma State. How healthy will he be by September? And if he's not 100%, do they try to force the issue and make him play against Alabama? Or do you say, hey, we're probably going to lose this game to the Crimson Tide. Let's hold off, rest you up so we have you for the long haul, the entirety of 2021. That's the major storyline we need to watch out for. The defense is another storyline you need to watch out for. There's no more Gregory Rousseau. There's no more Jalen Phillips. Who's going to replace those holes? Who's going to step up on defense? Obviously, usually a strong suit under Manny Diaz. He enters year 3, guys. They need a big year. Will the schedule allow for it? Miami was very competitive last year, but when they played the elite opponents, Clemson, North Carolina, Oklahoma State, the 3 teams they lost to, they didn't really show up. They almost mounted a big comeback against the Cowboys, fell just short, 37-34, but lost to Clemson 42-17 and got annihilated on the ground against North Carolina 62-26. 8 wins is great, but they need to beat the big dogs. Let's take a look at their schedule. What is Miami dealing with in 2021? Can they win the Coastal? Can they get to 9-10 wins? Well, I'm telling you right now, more than likely they're going to start 0-1. Again, we're not predicting these games here. We are not predicting every game here. That will come much later in the summer where we do game-by-game predictions for every single team. But they open up the season against Alabama in Atlanta. And again, Alabama always dominates in these special kickoff classics at the beginning of the year. Yes, they're dealing with a brand new quarterback in Bryce Young. Yes, they lost Devontae Smith and Najee Harris and Jalen Waddle and guys like that. But they do that every year. No one's going to be picking Miami to win this game, especially if King's not 100%. And I will say, when you look at Miami's schedule, the first 3 games are relatively difficult. They don't really get to ease into their season. Open against Alabama, playing a difficult Group of 5 team in Appalachian State, who now added Chase Bryce from Duke. He is their new quarterback. App State with a very potent running attack, which Miami did not do a very good job of stopping last year, and a very underrated defense. So they get to host the Mountaineers, but they cannot afford to overlook them. And then Michigan State, now in year 2 under Mel Tucker, yes, had a very disappointing year last year, but who didn't, guys? I mean, COVID, with the fact that Mel Tucker was brought in like February, really didn't add up for success for the Spartans, and yet they still got 2 big wins over Michigan and Northwestern. So Michigan State, not going to be an easy task for Miami, but when you look at their schedule, it should be noted that they don't have a true road game until October 16th at North Carolina. So while the first 3 games are relatively difficult, and I think many would expect them to start 2-1, most would say, they will take care of Central Connecticut State, and then they have Virginia at home. They don't have a true road game until October 16th, and that's very beneficial for Manny Diaz and the Hurricanes. That's a big deal. It's not very often you see that. I mean, literally almost midway through the season, and you haven't even gone really on the road? It's unheard of. So this is good for Miami. If you look at this, if they can manage to start 4-1 with the lone loss to Alabama, they'll still be, in theory, I would say about a top 15 team at this point, and then they hit this key stretch here that will really make or break their season. 4 games here: North Carolina, NC State, Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech. Those are the 4 games that, to me, will make or break Miami's season. And yes, Virginia Tech is going to be a big one when it comes to who wins the Coastal. That's a big, big game. But that game won't matter if Miami struggles in these next four from October 16th to November 6th. You look at the North Carolina game. It's very, very good that Miami's getting a bye week prior to facing the Tar Heels. Getting that week of rest before they go on the road to take on Sam Howell and Matt Brown and this elite UNC team that I believe could be a top 10 team to start the season. It's huge they're getting a week of rest. Last year in Miami, the Hurricanes lost 62-26 to the Tar Heels, like we mentioned. They were murdered on the ground, obliterated. Sam Howell really didn't have to do anything. He might have to do a little bit more this time around. But not having home field advantage is going to come back to haunt the Hurricanes here. Because this game very well could determine who wins the Coastal. The game against North Carolina and Virginia Tech could very well determine who wins the Coastal. Not just for Miami, but it's the same for UNC. It's the same for the Hokies. Those are the big three in this division right now. And that game against North Carolina is going to be huge. Depending on what happens here, they could have a hangover if they lose. It could slip up against NC State, a team they only beat 44-41 last year, an absolute thriller on a Friday night, if I'm not mistaken. So you got to watch out for the Wolfpack, who had 8 wins last year, following a 4-8 season in 2019. Dave Doran really building this team back up. NC State has the talent again to hit 8 wins, maybe even more. But the game is down in Miami. Watch out for NC State depending on what happens against the Tar Heels. Then on the road at Pittsburgh, Miami beat the Panthers 31-19 last year. But Pat Narduzzi's one of those coaches, and Pittsburgh's always one of those teams that, for a while now has been mediocre. 7 wins, 8 wins. Occasionally you could get themselves up to 9. But 7, 8 wins is usually their benchmark. But they tend to always pull off some major upset or give an elite team a big-time scare. And Miami could be that team on October 30th. It's very possible that they could be that team. Pittsburgh, yes, going through a lot of changes, lost a lot of key starters from last year, but they're still that sneaky underdog team in the ACC. Miami, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, those are your top 3. Pittsburgh's number 4, right there waiting in the wings. If a couple things go their way, they could win the Coastal just like they did a few years ago, back in 2018. So on the road at Pittsburgh, it's another big trap game for Miami. I would say that's the biggest trap game of them all in this 4-game stretch. Georgia Tech on the 6th did not play the Yellow Jackets last year. They are improving under Jeff Collins, but I still don't think they're quite there yet. The offense took a major step forward last year. We'll do it again in 2021. But with it being in Miami, a couple of years ago, Miami lost to the Yellow Jackets. I don't see that happening again now in 2021. So at home, in theory, they take care of business. But when you look at this little stretch here, guys, the 4 games that we think are the most important, or at least the little stretch that is the most important for Miami, they really need to go about 3-1 to even have a chance to remain in the Coastal hunt. They can hope UNC slips up, especially if one of those wins is against North Carolina. If they can get that tiebreaker over the Tar Heels, that would be significant, huge for them. But obviously, I know the odds are not in their favor, and more than likely North Carolina will be favored in that game on October 16th. But they need to go about 3-1 through this 4-game stretch, especially if they do lose their first game to Alabama. But again, that's not a conference game, so it doesn't matter too much in terms of winning the division. They round out their schedule with Florida State, Virginia Tech, and Duke. And sometimes I would say, 2 of the last 3 are on the road. That's concerning. That's dangerous. It's Florida State and Duke. We're not too worried about that for Miami. Again, we're not saying they're going to win those games. We are not predicting any games here. We are not predicting any games at all. But Florida State is obviously a team that's struggling. They showed some signs of improvement under Mike Norvell last year. In year 2, I would expect more. They've got to find themselves a quarterback, possibly Mackenzie Milton. Do I think they'll be better than 2020? Absolutely. Do I think they're going to be, 42 points better? Miami beat the Seminoles 52-10 last year. No, I don't. So Florida State's still not quite there yet to being a legitimate contender, especially being in the Atlantic Division with Clemson, where no one's going to dethrone the Tigers for a long, long time. Virginia Tech on the 20th is the biggest game out of this last 3. They beat the Hokies 25-24 last year, so they got that crucial win over Virginia Tech. Yes, the Hokies lose a lot. There's a lot of key players as well. But this is, again, one of those games where, depending on what North Carolina does, depending on what happens on October 16th, it could make or break who wins that Coastal Division, especially depending on how Virginia Tech has fared over the course of the season. They would have already played UNC as well. So all of that being said, this game could have major implications, maybe more implications in the game on the 16th, depending on how each team fares over the course of 2021. That's the key. So the games against UNC and Virginia Tech, by far the biggest on the schedule for Miami, and they are fortunate, of course, to get one of them at home. And that, of course, is the Hokies on the 20th. They round out the year at Duke. They beat the Blue Devils 48-0 last year. Duke's quarterback last year was Chase Bryce. He's gone to Appalachian State. Duke, I think, is going to struggle yet again under David Cutcliffe. The goal for him is just to get them to the postseason, and even that could be a struggle. Despite it being on the road, I don't think Miami fans are going to worry about it too much. Is Duke 48 points better now? No, they're not. So the FPI projects the Hurricanes to go 8-4 in 2021, and I know for you Miami fans out there, that would be a disappointment. You Miami fans out there would say 8-4? That's a huge disappointment, and I understand that. I fully agree with that. You're tired of mediocrity. You want to win the division. You have the talent. You think you have the talent. At least you should have the talent to win the Coastal, to contend with the top dogs, to make New Year's Six bowl games, and eventually make the college football playoff. And 8-4 is not going to cut it. Now, I'm not saying they're going to go 8-4. That prediction will come later. The FPI believes they will. And with tough games against Alabama, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, maybe some trap game in there against NC State, Pittsburgh, something like that, is not entirely out of the realm of possibility. Manny Diaz, though, needs a big year. Derek King should come back fully healthy. He is the X factor in all of this. He stays healthy. He plays at the level he did last year. Miami absolutely has a chance in just about every single game. If not, could be a disappointing year. Year 3 for Diaz in Miami is a big one. You're not going to want to miss it. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at The Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification button. Hit that bell, because we're going to keep going through our schedule previews for our top 25 teams, but you don't know which one's coming next. We haven't released our top 25. We're slowly showing it to you as we go through this series. So hit that notification button to see our next video every single day until we get to number 1. And as always, check out everything down in the description below. Exclusive content down there to get you through this college football offseason. Our website, thegridironexpert.com, the Gridiron Expert podcast, all of that is for you to use. The diehard college football fan, take advantage of it. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.